They get in front of him. One of them's holding like a crowbar. The other one's holding like a screwdriver. The other one's holding like some big object. I couldn't really point it out. In my mind, at this point, we're about to get robbed, and I'm like, damn, like seriously? We had a crazy time in Colombia, and I went to 3 different locations. One was, I stayed in actually Bogota. I went to Medellin, and then also Villa de Leyva. Okay, a little small little city, 3 hours or so away from Bogota. But let's jump into it. So I had a crazy time. It was great because I went there for a little bit of leisure, but also mainly for business as well. I have an app that's mainly in the language space. It's called YGlot. That's spelled YGlot. It essentially helps people learn a language through media content, and that same media content, people could actually tell their own story and actually earn from that. Right? My co-founder is also based in Colombia as well, so it was a great time. But I want to tell you guys about the time that I went there, and this was my first ever time to Colombia, right? But it was crazy because I essentially had an intense moment of fight or flight, right? So let's jump into it. Essentially, I was in Bogota for about a week, and my next destination was Villa de Leyva. Okay, so like within Bogota, it's a very beautiful city, very graffiti heavy, a lot of history. It's amazing. The people are super nice, and the food is insanely good. But I want to tell you about the time when I actually had this intense moment, right? It was because of a protest, essentially, right? So jump back into Bogota. I went to the main center, and along the Capitol buildings, because of protests, they actually cover these Capitol buildings with like legit like drapes, giant drapes, because people throw things at the buildings or whatnot. They're gonna spray it, right? So they cover the buildings so that people won't do anything to them. But that kind of like made me think like, oh crap, there's a lot of protests here in Colombia. I mean, it's protests everywhere, right? So don't get me wrong. But there was a recent protest, so like most of the buildings were covered with drapes. So I was like, I didn't think nothing of it, right? I did like a tour, I did whatever, I visited the city, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So my 1 week was up in Bogota, and so I was going to this little city, a little town of Villa de Leyva, okay? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. But this little city looks like a place that Disney was inspired by, like, right? Like Encanto, right? They, you know, the really big Colombian-based film. Obviously, this little town was not the one that inspired the movie, but it looked like that. Cobblestone roads, beautiful little city, the freaking buildings, old buildings, and it's beautiful, right? The people are super cool too. So I went out there, spent some time out there. It was a huge tourist attraction, essentially. You're going through the mountains, you're going to get there, essentially. And when I got there, there was like a main square where everybody's like flying kites. Beautiful little place. People are selling things. It's a very nice little place. So towards the end of the trip, I'm getting word from like my co-founder and other friends that I met in Bogota that, oh, there's a protest going on, so just be careful. I'm like, oh, okay. And this was like maybe like on a Wednesday, but I end up leaving on Saturday, essentially, out of that little town. And I'm getting word on Wednesday, like, oh, there's a protest going on. They're closing everything. And it's, you know, you just got to be careful like where you go, especially in Bogota, right? Mind you, this little town is 3 hours away from Bogota. So I'm like, okay, they're probably going to be protesting, but is it affecting everywhere? Like, I don't know. Is it affecting Medellin, which is hours away from Bogota? Is it affecting all of Colombia? I'm like, I don't know. But apparently this protest was about a hike in gas price and gasoline, essentially. And the government essentially hiked up the price, and now people are angry about it. And so my friend was telling me that, yeah, like it's a usually peaceful protest. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm okay. There's nothing going on in this little town during the day, at night. Nothing's happening, right? It's really slow. It's a beautiful little city. People are super cool, and nobody's doing anything crazy. And so I'm like, all right, well, by the time Friday came, I'm like, all right, I need to prepare for going back. So I need to get like private transport. So I'm reaching out to people, and the hotel that I stayed at was a Salina hostel, right? They're very big all around the world, and I ended up staying at the one in this location. And they're telling me they can give me a private transport back to Bogota. And they're telling me that the guy is like actually like it's like a group of people who take passengers back and whatnot. They're like, it might be safer to go at night, right, instead of during the day, because during the day they're closing the roads because of the protests. So I'm like, okay, that's whatever. Hopefully everything's gonna go good. I'm praying like, yes, we're gonna get back safe and sound. And I'm just like, you would think it'd be better to go during the daytime, but they're like, during the day, all the roads are closed essentially. So like in Bogota, the highways, everything is closed because of the protests, and the protests are going on during the day, obviously. So we're like, okay, cool, whatever. So on Saturday night, it comes, and here come the drivers. They're grouped up in like a group of people who are like taking multiple travelers back. These are other visitors, other people who are visiting from other parts of Colombia, tourists, people, whoever, right? And so we're a bunch of people. I get into the back of, or not the back, but I get into the passenger side of a car. There's an older couple, maybe like in their 60s or 70s, who get in behind me. We're in the car, and we're grouped up with a bunch of other cars who also have other people traveling with them. So we leave the hotel, we stop at this little corner store, and there's a group of other people with us, and we're like there for like 20 minutes, right? So that everybody can get ready, use the bathroom, whatever, get some food, some snacks, and then we go on our day. And this was like around like 7 o'clock. So it started getting darker and darker and darker. And we end up taking off. And maybe like 5 minutes down the road, 5 to 10 minutes down the road, we meet up at the center point where the town is like, there's like a main road that leaves town, and then that road connects with that one, and then that road you take up the mountain to get out of there essentially, right? And that's like a good 30-40 minute drive throughout the mountains to get to the main highway back to Bogota. And we meet up at this little 5 minutes, 10 minutes down the street from the town. We meet at this little corner spot, and there's dudes who just like pop up out of nowhere, and we're just like, okay. And they like come up out of nowhere. There's like 5 of them. 3 of them are like, they look like the youth. They look like they're in their 18, you know, their early teens to their 20s, right? They get in front of them. One of them's holding like a crowbar. The other one's holding like a screwdriver. The other one's holding like some big object. I couldn't really point it out, but I'm just like, okay. So like in my mind at this point, we're about to get robbed, and I'm like, damn, like seriously, right? So like everything's going through your head, like, you know, it's like, what's gonna happen? You're getting robbed. Are you going to die? Whatever. Everything is going through your head, you know, at a million miles a second. Everything's going through your head. So you're just like, okay. So you're at that moment in time, your heart drops. Everything is happening so fast. So we're just like sitting there, and there's another car. One of our drivers is in front of us. He actually stops, gets out the car. The driver gets out the car. I know there's like a few people in there. I don't know who the passengers were. I know they were like tourists. I know that for sure. But one of the driver gets out the car. He starts talking with these guys, and they're just like kind of creeping up. They're just like, you know, just acting crazy. I'm just like, what is going on? And so they're just acting crazy. They're just like looking into the cars like, yo, what's up? And you can hear them talking in Spanish. As the driver is talking with the other guys, there's like these other dudes, like teens and older guys. They're just like looking inside the cars, and they're like, you know, they're talking. You hear them. You can say like, you know, they're saying like Gringo. They're saying like American. They're saying like there's people in the car or whatever. They're just like talking and mumbling amongst themselves. And the lady behind me, I was actually wearing a hoodie, right? It's like a shirt hoodie essentially. And the lady behind me, she like touches my shoulder, and she's like, put on your hoodie. Cause like you can hear them saying like, you know, is there a Gringo, is there an American in the car or whatever like that. And so to mitigate the situation, she says, put on your hoodie. So I was like, okay, I'll put on my hoodie. Her husband is on the car, you know, I know he's freaking out. he's like, no, don't do that. And she's like, no, yes, I gotta do that. Like, do you not hear them? So she taps my shoulder, put on the hoodie. So I was like, all right, you know what? In these types of situations, I'm going to listen to the people, because like the couple behind me were Colombian themselves. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna listen to them. They seem to know what they're talking about. And also in the situation, they're yelling out Gringo. They see my dreadlocks. I'm like, all right, I need to hide myself as much as possible to not let them know like, oh, I am definitely standing out in a situation. I could kind of pass for Colombian. There's like people that look just like me, skin tone, dreadlocks, whatever. There's people out there like that. But in this little town, not really. Like, so I was like, all right, let me put on my hoodie, mitigate the situation as much as possible. And so after that, we're just like looking in there. We're just like sitting there in silence, right? The driver's sitting there like, okay. He's like sitting there, the same reactions that we got. We're just like trying to figure out the situation, what's going on. Are we gonna get robbed, or like what's happening? After that, I put on my hoodie. We're just looking around, and then the guy in front of us, the driver who was outside of the car, he's talking with some of the people, and this guy, one random dude, walks out of nowhere, and he looks like he has like this boss main character mentality. He's the boss. He's the Kingpin. He walks out of nowhere and just like looking at everything, talking to people. He starts talking with the driver, and all you hear him, both of them just start arguing. Mainly the main protagonist character. He starts yelling at the driver, saying like he doesn't give a shit. Fuck you, all this kind of stuff. You're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. And so that's when we're like, fuck. Oh my gosh. What do we do? Right? And so in my mind, everything going in my mind is like, all right, fight or flight, right? So in this moment, your heart drops. You're just like, what do? You tense up, okay? And I'm looking around just like, okay, so if we have to, like, everything goes to your head. You don't know necessarily what to do. And this might be different for everybody. This is my situation, right? It might be different for a lot of other people. A lot of people might have a better interpretation of that situation. This was what was going through my head. So I'm like, either A, we're going to get robbed. B, we're going to die. C, we're going to have to fight our way out of this and run. But after you run, what's going to happen? Are they going to chase you? Are they going to kill you? And not to, and mind you, this isn't what a huge representation of Colombia. Colombia is a beautiful place. It is an amazing city. This is not an exact representation. This is just people who are angry, and this is a protest. This happens all around the world. Happens even in America, okay? So I'm from America. It's even worse in America, actually. People do things. People actually destroy shit just to send a message, right? These people are just like scaring you. So I'm not saying this is an actual representation of Colombia. All right. Thank you for my TED Talk, right? So anyways, so they're arguing, right? The main protagonist, this dude, the Kingpin, he's just like not having it. So this driver gets back into his car, and we start moving forward. We either have to move forward, like right, not even that far. Like there's still people right there. There's like 10 or 12 guys around us. And so we have to move forward. There's other guys like ushering us, like go over there, right? We drive forward, and then we pull around the corner, and you see like giant trucks, like semis and other cars just like parked on the side of the road. And then in front of that, there's like 40 something people way ahead of that, right? So like the entire roads are blocked off. And then we pull up to the side behind the semi truck, and I kid you not, I'm like, the whole situation is like, in my mind, I'm not like, this is a protest. Oh, okay. No, in my mind is like, fuck, like we're in a situation. We gotta do something about it. Either gonna get robbed or I'm gonna get killed or whatever, right? So we pull up, and like 20 something guys pull up around the car. Oh my gosh. Like, what are we supposed to do? And then our driver actually gets out the car, and then you see like people crowding the car, and like dudes are like pushing each other. And I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Why are you pushing each other? Why are you doing this, right? So they start pushing each other against the car. They're like joking and laughing, and you just don't even hear those conversations in the background, right? It just doesn't register. Again, this is like, I'm like thinking of my plan of action, thinking of what they're gonna do. What are we going to do as a whole, as a group? Do we fight? Do we get out the car and swing? Does the guy in the back, does he get on the floor on all fours and I push? Like, what do we do, right? So so what happens next is that there's people surrounding the car, and there's a guy that walks over. He like I watch him walk over to the left side of the car. I'm in the passenger seat. Driver is gone. I look over to my left. There's a guy that walks over. He like kneels down, and all I see is like his back essentially, but he's like doing something. And the driver comes back, he opens up the door, and now I hear like this leak, like an air pressure leak. Like if you ever like, I don't like, almost like a balloon, but like I don't know, like a tire, right? And if you like pressure out that, like if you have a bicycle and you let out the air of the bicycle, you hear like this little leak of air, like, right? You hear that noise, out air. Then you just pop the tire. But he's like sitting there, and I'm like, and you can actually feel the car like just like, you know, leaning a tad bit, right? So he's letting out air to the tire. Another dude, like a younger dude, he walks around the car to the right side, next to the passenger side. He does the same thing, goes out into the tire. He's letting out air to the tire. Now, mind you, they didn't pop the tires. They're just like letting out air essentially, because they're like, your ass is not leaving. So we all look at each other. The woman behind me, she's like, okay, let's get out the car. I was like again, like I'm here, I'm present. I'm in a situation where I'm like fight or flight. What do I do? Like, you know, if they come near me, am I punching somebody, taking them down with me, and then running? Like, what do I do in a situation? But the lady behind me, she's like, you know what, I think we should all get out the car, drive our stuff, and get out, whatever. And so we get out the car, we go to the trunk, we start looking for our things, we start handing each other our bags, and like, I'm talking like, I travel light, so I'm traveling with a huge duffel bag. So she hands me that duffel bag. I believe I did have another bag too. I think it was just like a much smaller bag, like dirty laundry or something like that. So I had 2 bags that I'm carrying. They grab their bags and we're just like sitting there, right? And there's still 20 guys around our car. This was when I realized that these people do not give a shit about you. You can't leave. Now, if you leave, probably a different story, but they don't care about you. I literally stand on the side near the car and I'm looking around and mind you, like, I'm not in the best of moods. Like, again, if somebody was to touch me, I'm ready to square up and hit somebody. And, you know, like, I don't know, like, I'm just ready to swing on somebody and take somebody down, because you're not about to come at me with a weapon or whatnot. Like, I'm gonna fight for my life. Like, this was it. Like, if I'm gonna die, I'm going down with somebody, and I'm not just gonna sit there and let somebody stab me or whatever it is, or like somebody rob me. But I'm just like sitting there, just like in a position that I'm ready to go, right? And so, but I look around and like there's like 2 guys just like standing there, just like having a conversation, and I'm just like, what's up? Like, are we about to do this? Like, is this it? Right? So like I was like in game mode. I was ready to go. Like, is this it, man? Just come on, you know, I'm ready. You play your first cards, I'll throw my card down. All right? Okay? So like that was it. And so their guys are just like standing there and they didn't do anything, right? So I realized maybe this is just a way for them to scare you, like a scare tactic, so that you don't leave. So I'm just like, okay. So I look at these guys. I look at the other guy. He's just like he's just like sitting there like he's at a party. He like looks at me, gives me eye contact, and he like looks away. He goes to the other tire and starts taking out air. So I was like, okay. So is this what you guys think of a protest is? Or like your form of protesting? You're just trying to scare us so that we don't leave, right? Until the protest is over. Obviously they're mad, they're angry, and they probably will do something, but you know, they will do more than just deflate a tire by, you know, not even like putting a knife into it. They literally just like go into the little air pressure thing, taking out the knob and like letting out air out of the tire. Harmless, right? But the tactics that they used was crazy. We grab our bags, we walk over to the corner, and we just like look back like, damn, like that just happened. And we just walked away unscathed. Like, that was it. And so I actually went back into the crowd to go find the driver, because, you know, it was like, I already paid him, you know, I might need a refund. We barely went anywhere. So he said that he'll refund me the money. And what happened was, like, the next day he actually gave the money to another driver that I used, essentially. But we're sitting there in the light under like this lamppost, watching everything unfold. People are just like in the streets, and you look around, there's like restaurants on the other side, there's a bunch of people in the streets, there's like also like kids just like on the side too, there's also women who are holding babies too. So I'm just like, I don't think this is what we thought it would be, right? Like, I'm expecting like garbage cans on fire over there, you know? I'm expecting people just jumping on cars. I'm expecting like people getting hit by bats because, you know, I don't know. Like, this was their protest, and they were out there just vibing at that point, but still not letting people leave, right? So this was their form of a protest, essentially. Now, when I think of a protest, I'm from the States. I'm also black. So think about a couple years ago when we had our protest. That's my mind, right? People destroying shit, people destroying businesses, doing whatever they want. Like, that's a story for another day. But anyways, that's in my mind, right? And people doing whatever it takes to send the message. Like, I don't know. violence, whatever it is. Like that's in my mind at this time. So like this kind of threw me off, right? This was kind of like their form of a protest. They're trying to scare you so that you don't leave. Okay, like nobody's leaving that town. People drove up there and turned back around. Like that was them, right? So with all that to say, the people behind me, the older couple, they were there visiting that town, that little town, right? And they lived in a different part of Colombia. I can't remember, but they were traveling from Bogota. They flew into Bogota and then traveled to this little town. And what happened was the woman, her brother, her family actually owns a hotel in that city, right? I didn't stay at that hotel that, you know, throughout the week, but they own a hotel. And we were a good hour-long walk. That's a 5 to 10 minute drive down the street. That's an hour-long walk, essentially. So we were like walking like maybe like not even 10 minutes down the road. And we were just like, all right, this is just, it's gonna be unrealistic to like walk this distance. And so we essentially had her call her brother to come pick us up. He picked us up and they offered me a hotel. Like obviously I'm gonna pay them. But once we got there, they, you know, we went back to the hotel. They essentially cooked for us. I ate good food. And then I just like relaxed. You know, I didn't pay until the morning. They were just like I'm like, listen, I appreciate it. Let me pay you. They're like, dude, relax. Relax. They're sitting there repeating, tranquilo, tranquilo. They're sitting there repeating it, like, just relax, you know? So I was like, okay. So had good food, went to my room and just relaxed, just like calmed down a little bit. And that was it, right? The next morning, I ended up paying them right before I left, actually. But they were super cool people, super nice people. I left them an amazing 5-star review. Had a good room. I mean, it wasn't like a 5-star hotel. It was like a little family-owned building of like several rooms, maybe like 20-something rooms. And it's a little hotel with a, you know, bed and breakfast type thing. Beautiful place. So that was my experience in Colombia. My first time in Colombia, I happened to be within a protest, right? Shit was crazy. But that was like my fight or flight situation, right? But no, like I don't want you to think that that's Colombia. Like I want to go back, right? It's just when you're in a situation like that in a protest, just be careful because that can happen. If there's a protest, they're gonna close down the roads. Just stay in, cancel your plans because it's gonna happen, right? And that's even just all around the world too. So don't think of this as a whole of Colombia. The people are beautiful, the food is good, the Colombia place, the locations and everything are gorgeous. I want to go back, okay? So, and that's a wrap, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to this story of my first time in Colombia. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.